the Adventures in Awakening show. I'm Trace Spring, and this is the epic exploration of the depths of who you really are and the highest purpose of why you're here. So come along with us on an adventure in awakening. Welcome, everyone. Today, we have the most amazing guest. She's absolutely one of my favorite people in the whole world, Marci Shimoff. Marci, thank you so much for being here today.
Tracy, I love getting to be with you at any opportunity, and I love
Oh,
what you're up to with this show. So I'm delighted to get to be here with you.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let me share a little bit about Marci before we get started. Marci Shimoff is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, a world-renowned transformational leader, and an expert on happiness, success, and unconditional love. Marci's books have sold more than 16 million copies worldwide in 33 languages and have been on the New York Times bestseller list for a total of 121 weeks. Marci is one of the best-selling female nonfiction authors of all time. Wow. You may recognize Marci from the hugely successful documentary film, The Secret. And she's also the host for the national PBS special, Happy for No Reason, that is based on her book, Happy for No Reason, and the narrator for the award-winning film, Happy. Marci currently co-leads a worldwide program called Your Year of Miracles with thousands of participants from 72 countries around the globe. And this amazing transformational program is all about living a life of miracles. And I have been a part of that program for many years, and I can say that it is absolutely transformational and uplifting in so many ways. I cannot recommend it enough. Marci has inspired millions of people around the world and is dedicated to helping people live more miraculous, empowered, and joy-filled lives. So, wow, Marci, thank you again for joining us today.
It's really this conversation I'm so looking forward to because it's my favorite thing to get to talk about. It's all that you're about and all that your show is about.
Thank you. Thank you. Because we we don't talk about this much really in day-to-day life, do we? About, awakening, waking up to more than what we seem to be on the surface. So it's wonderful to actually sit down and have a conversation about it.
It's
And
really the
I
most important conversation there is
I agree with you.
because
I
it's really,
agree.
I believe, why we're on the planet. So it's
Exactly. Exactly. So, well, I like to start off these conversations with the famous quote by Desjardins. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Marci, what does that mean to you?
so it it means it directs us to why we're on the planet. We are on the planet. We are in essence divinity. We are in essence the ultimate. We are, I believe, ultimately the awake human being is one with all of life, and our life journey here is to get to that, to really deeply, truly, not from an intellectual standpoint, but from the cells in our bodies, to awaken to the reality that we are the divine, we are love, we are truth. It's the core of what every religion has spoken about, basically from time immemorial, is that state of awakening as a human being. And our job here on the planet is to we forget it. I think that babies come in, there's a great remembrance of knowing who they truly are, and then we forget it. And our jobs in life are to remember, we knew it at one point, remember that truth and to really live it in our physical bodies. It's not to be off somewhere in some woo land. I mean, it is true that there are certain people whose destiny, I believe it is, to be meditating in a cave for their lifetime. But for most of us, certainly for you and me, and I imagine most people listening, our job is really to live that in the moment to moment life experience. Going to the grocery store, taking care of the kids, being in a work project, being in every moment very present to that state of the truth of who we are, to the awakening.
Do you have some tips for our audience as to how to do that? How to, while we're living our day-to-day life, how can we remember more the deeper truth of ourselves?
Mm. Well, I definitely have some tips on day-to-day life, what to do in day-to-day life. I mean, I can say from my own experience, what has helped me has been meditation, allowing myself to be quiet and go inward to experience that truer state of essence. Not to live my life in meditation eyes closed, but then to bring that out with me into activity, into my life. That's that deeply centered space. Being in nature is always a great helper, great support to remind us that we are nature, that we are that, and that nature has its own rhythm and pace. One of my great teachers was a woman named Angeles Arian, and Angie was a cultural anthropologist that studied the deepest truths of indigenous cultures around the world. And she used to say that nature has a rhythm, and nature's rhythm is medium to slow, medium to slow, medium to slow. Now, I don't know about you, but my normal rhythm is not medium to slow. My rhythm has been
Mm.
fast to fast, fast to fast, fast to fast. And there's a place for that, but I think that for the most part, if we want to get in sync with our true nature, we also get in sync with nature around us. And we do that by spending time in nature. We do that by moving more in medium to slow. Um, Another thing that I think is really important to put us in to live more from that state of truth is to surround ourselves with people who are also in that conversation, who are also committed to living that kind of life. That's why I'm loving so much what you're doing, is because what we put our attention on grows stronger in our life. And just by virtue of having this conversation, it's putting our attention on this idea of living our truth, of awakening, of whatever it is you want to call it, enlightenment. So I think spending time surrounding ourselves with people who are living in a higher vibration, all of these are very important to becoming more and more awake to the truth of who we are.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that because every pointer that we get can really help us, as we go through our day and go through difficulties. Every little tool that we can have can certainly help us along in that journey. And I'm wondering, Marcy,
Let me
okay,
add one other one.
good,
Let me
good.
add another one that is just so kind of big. Um, all the religions speak to how there is just the most important quality there is the quality of love. And that is the truth of who we are. We are love. And I don't mean in the romantic sense. I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about just that the vibratory quality of love. And what I've found is that the practice that can most help me experience the truth is kindness. Kindness is the step to love, and kindness towards ourselves. Because most of us are trained to be outwardly kind, but often just in order to get approval or to get something. What we need, the medicine of our times, is kindness to ourselves. And so that means daily, moment by moment, saying, am I being loving to myself right now? Am I speaking to myself in a loving way? Am I surrounding myself with as much loving support as I can? Am I living in a way that's aligned with what I want to do here on the planet, that's bringing out the love in me? So that would be the other piece of wisdom, would be kindness towards ourselves.
Beautiful, beautiful. Great reminders. Great reminders. And So now, Marcy, would you like to share a little bit about your journey, about how you came to meditation, any kind of realization that there's more to you than what you seem to be on the surface? Would you like to share that with
Mhm.
us?
I would be happy to share that. I would say that my entire life has been a journey of seeking, of really knowing, feeling that there was more. I was born depressed. I came out of the womb with existential angst. I now believe that I either had, I came in with some trauma, and it was either past life PTSD or ancestral PTSD. I have a, I, I'm Jewish, and I felt ancestral suffering. And I was on a journey of awakening. And I remember asking my parents when I was little, please tell me about God. And they did their best. It didn't satisfy what I was yearning for. And I'll tell you that it's a very weird story, but I think you can handle, I think
Yes.
everybody here can handle the weird story.
Yes.
When I was in the eighth grade, I woke up one day and just didn't feel like going to school. I wasn't sick. And I just told my mom, I just don't quite feel right. But, and but I don't feel like going to school today. I'd never done that before. So she didn't think I was trying to pull one off on her. And she said, okay, honey, you can stay home today. So I stayed home and I sat up in my parents' bed, because they had a TV in the bedroom, the only room in the house that had a TV from bed. And I turned on the TV, and it came on to a station that we didn't get. It came on to a VHF channel.
Huh.
We didn't get that. And the year was 1971. And on this show, it turned out to be the Phil Donahue show. And on the show was this little Indian man with a white cloth over him. It's called a dhoti, but he was wrapped in white cloth. And he was speaking about life and the truth of life. And his name was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And he was the founder of Transcendental Meditation. But I didn't understand at the time that there was a meditation involved. And he was just speaking, and I burst into tears. And I said, what he's speaking about is what I'm on earth for. I knew it. And I was so excited. And I wrote down the name of the book that he had written, The Science of Being, An Art of Living. And when the show was over, I called up all the libraries and bookstores in my town that I was in, San Mateo. California is where I grew up. Nobody had the book. So I stuffed that piece of paper off into one of my drawers. Never thought about it again. 3 years later, I'm walking through downtown San Mateo, and there was a poster in a stationery store that said, "Life is here to enjoy." And it had this picture of the man on the TV show, Maharishi. And it talked about some lecture to come and learn meditation. And I went to the lecture and I learned meditation that weekend. And that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. And I became a teacher of transcendental meditation. I went to college at a college where everyone meditated together, Maharishi International University. And that was really where my deeper spiritual journey began. And I'm so grateful for that particular piece of my journey. And it really has shifted my life very dramatically.
Wow. What an amazing thing that happened. That you stayed home and
Yeah.
you just happened to turn on the TV and Marcy was on there. What an amazing, miraculous thing that happened. How old were you when you learned to meditate?
I was 16 when I learned to meditate. And by the way, anyone who's doing quick math, I'll do it for you. I'm 65. And so I was very, very fortunate. And I'll tell you, Tracy, I went, it's always been times when I've gone deeper that have shifted the trajectory of my life. And may I
Yes.
share another story
Yes, please.
about how it impacted my life?
Yes.
So a number of years later, I knew from a young age that I also had this vision that I was to be a speaker. When I was 13, I had gone to see Zig Ziglar speak. I don't know how a friend's parents took us to see Zig Ziglar speak. And I said, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Oh,
I came
wow.
home and told my parents, I know what I'm going to be as an adult. I'm going to be a professional speaker. They had no idea what that was. They wanted me to be a dental hygienist because my dad was a dentist. Nothing wrong with being a dental hygienist. I just hate blood. And my mother teased with me. She said, "Honey, you sure talk enough. You might as well get paid for it." So I ended up getting an MBA in training and development and started teaching and speaking. And I was doing a lot of speaking. My mentor was a man named Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield was the originator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And I was teaching his work on self-esteem. And and I was teaching to audiences of 50 or 100 people, and I knew it wasn't what I was really meant for. I felt that, and I was feeling frustrated. And one day, a dear friend of mine, whom you also know well, Tracy, Janet
Yes.
Atwood,
Yes.
looked at me and she said, "Marci, you look terrible." She didn't use those words. She was more expressive. She said, "You are hitting your head against the wall. You're burned out. I'm going to take you away with me on a silent 7-day meditation retreat." I said, "Janet, 7 days of silence. I don't think I've been silent more than 2 hours." But she was very convincing, and off we went. And on the fourth day, in the middle of silence, in the middle of a meditation, a light bulb went off in my head, and I saw the words, "Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul." Now, Tracy, at the time, the only book that was out in the Chicken Soup series was the original one. Nobody had thought of a specialty book. And I knew as soon as I saw that, it was in my mind's eye, I knew that's what was going to bring me onto the world stage that I had seen as a younger girl. And there was only one problem with this, and that is I had just had a great epiphany of my life, and and I still had 3 more days of silence. I couldn't tell anybody. But as soon as the silence was over,
Oh,
I went to the closest payphone, and I called up Jack. It was in 1995, and I said, "Jack, I've got it. Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul." He said, "I can't believe nobody's thought of it." Brilliant. He called up the publisher. Publisher said, "I can't believe nobody's thought of it." And a year and a half later, my first book came out, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, and went to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list
wow.
that week. And I know that having gone into that deeper inner state, that silence, was what allowed that to come forth in me. And I have seen it time and time and time again in my life that the biggest breakthroughs have happened when I have focused inward for a time. It doesn't have to be a week. It could be 2 hours. It could be an hour. Do what I suggest that people do is that they do an electronics fast, ideally for a day, 1 day a month, off of all electronics, be in silence,
Mm,
spend the day for yourself, see
beautiful.
what comes out.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You also hold a program called Your Year of Miracles, and it reaches thousands of women around the world. Can you tell us about your inspiration that started that?
Yes. So I was teaching happiness. They say that we teach what we most want to learn, and I had wanted to learn how to be happier. I had all the accoutrements of happiness I thought would bring it to me, but it didn't. And so I, one day, deeply committed, I'm going to find out the secrets to happiness. And I interviewed 100 unconditionally happy people. I interviewed all the researchers on happiness. This was back in the 90s. And I started doing what they were saying. And I found that, wow, happiness is something that can be learned. It is a matter of habits. And so after Happy for No Reason came out, that was very successful. And I wrote another book called Love for No Reason about unconditional love. I started waking up, Tracy, every morning feeling like my life was miraculous. Like there was like I had no idea what the day was going to bring. I knew what my calendar said, but then all these other things would come in. People would show up with amazing opportunities, or just the right information would come my way. There were synchronicities everywhere. And I realized I felt like I was living a miraculous life. And I realized there's a way to do this. There are principles that can help you live a more miraculous life. And I started teaching these. And over the years, this year, we have 5,400 people from 80 something countries
Wow.
about living a miraculous life. And let me just clarify what that means. Everybody wants a miracle. So I'm going to talk about what I mean by a miracle. A miracle is a surprise and welcome event. This is the dictionary definition. It's a surprise and welcome event that can't be explained by science, that's often attributed to divine grace. So we can't create miracles. We can't control the universe in that way. But what we can create is the conditions for miracles to flow in our lives. We can be in what I call the miracle zone. And by the way, what you're talking about when you talk about people having an awakening, adventures in awakening, and having an awakening life, an awakened life, that is the miracle zone.
Yes.
The more that we are truly awake.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean just having some cosmic experience. People can have cosmic experiences. That's great, but that doesn't mean awakening. Awakening means an integration in daily life. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, where there's really not even, the ego self is not running the show. The soul is running the show. The truth. We all have an ego self, the small self, the personality self, the fears, the wound, all that stuff. And that may play out, but identifying, knowing the truth of our higher self, that's what we're about. And so this is what I'm sharing with people, living in the miracle zone. And if you'd like, I'm happy to share the 5 foundations for living in the miracle zone, as I think they may help people.
Wonderful.
So I found that out of all the principles there are, and there are many principles in the universe, if we kind of latch onto 5 of them, these 5 would be the ones I would say. And I call them the 5 foundations for living in the miracle zone. There's an acronym for it that I call USHER, so we can remember it better. It's about ushering in this state of the miracle zone. And the U in USHER stands for universe. And the principle is trust in the universe. We either believe that the universe is for us, the universe is on our side, or the universe is against us. And whatever we believe is going to determine what our life experience is. Einstein said the most important question you can ask is this a loving universe? And if you believe that it's a loving universe and you trust more in the universe, there's more of a state of surrender to a bigger force of life. So that's the U, trusting in the universe. The S stands for soul. And it's about listening to the soul, not the ego, the soul. Soul is the truth of who we are. The ego personality is also known as Dr. Sue Morter calls it the projective personality, or the small self. The soul is the truth of who we are. And when we listen to that, it was through the soul that came the message, chicken soup for the woman's soul, when I was in deep meditation. So the S is living from the soul. The H stands for heart. And the H is leading with an open heart. So I have never met a person who is deeply, truly happy and living in the miracle zone that had a closed heart. So living with an open heart means, are you generous? Are you kind? Are you compassionate? Are you, do you forgive easily? Is there self-care, self-love, self-compassion as well? So that is the heart. Then the E stands for energy. And it's about choosing where we put our energy and attention. We all have the power of choice. And what we put our attention on is what we get more of in our life. So are you putting your energy and attention behind, all of the kind of stupid stuff that doesn't really matter in life? Or are you putting your energy and attention on what really will bring you more of awakening, of truth, of love? And then finally, in the USHER acronym is R, and R stands for responsibility. And what it means is taking responsibility for our life, not being a victim in life, not expecting the circumstances of life or other people in life to bring us our joy, fulfillment, and love, but really taking responsibility for our own life, showing up in life not as a victim, blaming others or complaining, but showing up as a victor in life. So I'm just going to repeat those. And what I recommend that everybody do is you think, which of those right now would most help me live more miraculous life? So trusting in the universe, living from the soul, leading with an open heart, choosing where we put our energy and attention, and taking responsibility for our life. So just right now, feel into what right now is calling to you that would open you more to living a miraculous life.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by soul? What is your feeling level of what a soul is, what your soul is, what everyone's soul is?
Mm, such a beautiful question. And it's so hard to answer that kind of
Yes.
question. Words. Um,
Do you have a
the
feeling
soul,
sense?
yes, it's the spark of individuality that is connected to the universe.
Mm,
That is the universal energy of life that is manifesting as this particular human being. The
beautiful,
soul is that which is ultimately the awakened soul, is that which recognizes its oneness with all of life.
beautiful, beautiful. Did you have a moment when you woke up to realizing your soul self?
I wouldn't say there's one moment. I think there are levels of moments, and I've had a number of those kinds of experiences. One of them that comes to mind the most to me, or one of the ones that comes in mind to mind the most to me, has to do with an experience that I had about 20 years ago. I was 20 years earlier, back in the 80s, I had an experience of deep pain in my heart. Really, really deep pain. I'd broken up with an old boyfriend, and we'd been together a couple of years, and it was a great relationship, but I knew he wasn't my life partner. And I thought, I better create a vacuum, because nature abhors a vacuum. And if I want to meet my life partner, I better let go of what's not right for me. So we broke up for no other reason than that. And about a week later, he met his beloved, his woman. And I didn't want to be with him, but I didn't want him to meet somebody else a week later. And it was like a knife in my heart. Not only that, she was a friend of mine. I lived in this small town. She lived around the corner from me. I had to learn a new way to drive home at night, so I wouldn't drive, or in the morning, so I wouldn't drive by her house early in the morning and see his car there. So it really catapulted me into this deep it was kind of my dark night of the soul.
Mhm.
And from that time, I had this, like, almost, it was heavy, deep pain that I would feel physically. I would go to doctors and I'd say, "What's going on?" And they'd say, "You got nothing wrong with your heart." And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And 20 years later, in 2003, I met another spiritual teacher. I call him Swamiji. His name was Swami Chandrasekhar Chekranand. And he was also from India. And he was a specialist in what's called Kundalini Vidya, in seeing where your energies in your subtle body were blocked. He
Mm,
called himself a subtle body mechanic.
mm,
So we have the physical body, but then we also have layers of subtle body around us as well, the energetic body, the astral body, all of that. So he could see where my energy was blocked. He said, "Your energy, there's the central channel is called the Sushumna. Hello,
good,
the
good,
Sushumna,
good.
where the Kundalini energy flows." And full awakening is when it fully flows through the crown of the head. And what he says is that there's 1,000 brain centers. It's called the
Mm,
1,000 petal lotus, when all of those brain centers awaken.
wow.
That's kind of full awakening. At any rate, he said, your Kundalini is being blocked at the heart chakra. There's a cap right above the heart chakra. And the force, my vitality, prana force, was not strong enough to break through that cap. And that what was causing that pain in my heart, that it was blocked on the subtle body by my energy not breaking through. And so he gave me specific practices. He only had a few hundred students, and he gave each student very specific practices for them. And he gave me these specific breathing practices, yoga practices, and meditation practice for me. And the very first time I started doing it, about 5 minutes into the practice, I was actually crying because it was so painful in my heart. And then all of a sudden, the energy burst through. There was light everywhere.
Wow.
And I saw an image of Mother Mary. Now,
Wow.
I was a little Jewish girl. I did not have Mother Mary in my vocabulary. This was not something I'd ever connected with before,
Oh,
but there was Mother Mary, and
wow.
she was completely there in front of me, giving me so much love. I felt
Wow.
deeply, deeply loved and cared for, and it shifted my whole life.
Wow.
The pain went away after that experience, 95, 98%. It's now gone completely, but it really went away. And from then on, life truly quite remarkably shifted. And Mother Mary is very much a part of my
Wow.
life now, as are other
Beautiful.
beautiful beings, and Mary Magdalene. And so, you know, that was my experience of that. And here's what I want to share with people, because I tend to be a comparer. And I will say, well, that person's having that experience and that person's having that experience. And what this beautiful Swami taught me was that each person's subtle body is very, very different. And they have different knots in different places. And just because somebody's having one experience of one thing does not mean that that's what you're supposed to be having, or does not mean other things. It may mean that the other brain centers in them are not as open. So you cannot compare yourself to anybody else's spiritual path. So for that reason, I tell people, find what speaks to you
Yes.
and follow that. And it may change. You know, I've been through various kinds of successions. And it's not to diminish any of the things that I did earlier in my life, because they were perfect for me in that time, is to follow the path of this soul's progression, of this being's progression, as an individual soul, you know. And so it's different for everybody. So follow what's true for you.
Beautiful. That was such a beautiful thing to share. Thank you. And so, what do you do now, Marci, as your daily routine? What would you say are the most important points of your daily routine that you do now to help you to be in that miracle zone, be open to an awakened life?
Yes. So there's two different ways, two different aspects of that I want to answer. One is the actual routines, the things that I put into place in my life. And then the other is my come from, my perspectives. And that's what's to show up in every moment. So first, let me talk about my routine. And again, it's different for everybody. So, you know, I'll share with you mine. And if there's pieces of it that work for you, hallelujah. Years ago, I became very familiar with a form of healthcare called Ayurveda, which I know, Tracy, you also are very familiar with.
Yes.
And it's the ancient Indian science of life. Ayurveda means science of life. And and that's the routine that I tend to use. And that includes, I wake up most often around before 6 a.m., somewhere between 5 and 6 a.m. It's a very special, magical time to wake up because of the way the cycles, our circadian rhythms work. So I wake up, I drink some hot water with lemon right away, and I I do an oil massage, and delicious oil massage before I shower, and then I meditate. Sometimes I exercise first, sometimes I exercise afterwards, but I meditate first thing in the morning, and then I do my work, which feels very much aligned with what I'm here on the planet to do. So it doesn't feel like work, it feels like a calling. I'm very fortunate. Doesn't mean that I love every piece of it. You know, there's pieces of it that stretch me. So, you know, it's leaning into the stretch.
Yeah.
I eat an Ayurvedic kind of a life-based diet. I eat a plant-based diet. I eat my biggest meal at lunch. Um, I try to take time to be in nature. I like to walk outside barefoot at least sometime during the day.
Mm.
Um, I like to be in the sun a little bit. There's a meditation that I do called the sunning meditation where I close my eyes and I look up towards the sun and allow the sun's rays to come in through my into my pineal gland and wash my pineal gland with that the rays of the sun. It raises your serotonin, which is one of the main happiness producing chemicals. So, sometimes I'll just go out and once or twice a day and just look at the sun in the midst of my normal routine. And then I try to go to bed by 10 o'clock. They say that every hour of sleep before 10 is worth 2 hours of sleep after midnight. Every hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 hours after midnight. So I like to be on that kind of a routine, and it doesn't always work. But that's my sort of daily lifestyle routine. And and then the overall stuff. I surround myself with people I love. I work with people I love. I feel incredibly. The person I work most closely with, I call her my CEO, Chief Everything Officer. Her name is Gina, and I call her Angel Gina because she's one of the angels in my life. And I have a wonderful partner, Sergio, and I get to play with people like you, Tracy. So an overall piece is who I surround myself with, and then also what attitudes I bring to my day. Those the elements that I speak of in terms of leading with an open heart, and leaning into trusting in the universe and being open to life, whatever life brings me, of believing life is for me.
Beautiful, Marci. Such incredible gems of wisdom that you've shared with us today.
I want to say
Uh,
something as a disclaimer because I can hear myself listening to this and going, there is no way I'm going to do all of that. So, what I tell people when they're listening to this is pick one or two things right now, baby steps. Pick one or two things that most resonates with you, that most says, yes, that would feel good, and do those. And celebrate what you are doing rather than beat yourself up for what you aren't doing.
Beautiful.
We are taught so well to beat ourselves up for what we're not doing, to focus on, oh, I got to do this so I can be better. That is not the way to live a more awakened life. And awakening means honoring all the ways that you are living and supporting your own life right now.
Yes. Beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. So, thank you so much, Marci, for being here today. Thank you for sharing your incredible gems of wisdom. We're so grateful for you and for all that you do in the world. You help
Well,
so many
Tracy,
people.
I am grateful for you because I truly believe that this waking up that we are all here to do individually, we are also here to do collectively. And that the more that each one of us wakes up to the truth of who we are, the more it helps the planet. It is not selfish. It's the least selfish thing we can do. And there's a beautiful Chinese proverb that I love to share about this. And I'd love
Yes.
to end our time together with this. It goes like
Yes.
this. It says, when there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the house. When there is harmony in the house, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in this world. And my prayer and my wish for each one of us is that we know that light of our own soul. We know that truth of who we are. And through that, we help bring peace onto this planet.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Marci. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much for
Tracy.
being here and sharing your beautiful heart, your beautiful spirit with everyone today. It's been such a joy sharing this time with you. Thank you so
My
much.
honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for the Adventures in Awakening show. For more information, go to our website, adventuresinAwakeningacademy.org. I'm Tresiah Spring and wishing you a glorious day.